Is South Africa's economic transformation just about big business deals for a few individuals in society? Last week, President Jacob Zuma spoke at the first National Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Summit. Zuma said BEE was still key to transformation in the country. This morning, we asked Sandile Zungu from the Black Business Council if this is the right formula. Sandile, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
Let's start first talk about the summit itself. You were a participant there. The Director General of the Department of Trade and Industry, Lionel October, said at the end of it that it was very successful. Do you share the same view?
Well, I definitely share the same view. No, it was successful in many respects. First of all, this was probably the first summit that was blessed by the government, that had the agenda, that was really official agenda in terms of the program of government. It was opened by the president. Various ministers were in attendance, and various bureaucrats and captains of industry. And probably more than 3,000 delegates from around the country were in attendance. The depth and the quality of discussions really buoyed me, who was in attendance.
When you look at BEE, while we know that it's key to transformation in South Africa, as many players say, we still perceive it as benefiting a few connected individuals in terms of the size of the deals. I mean, lots of deals have been done over the last 10 years, definitely in South Africa. How can we broaden it to make sure that it actually empowers many more South Africans?
Well, the narrative around broad-based clearly has to change, because the reality is that the very same people that are claimed to have benefited from empowerment will tell you that we have not benefited. They will say to you, why is it so? It's because the focus tends to be on big deals. There are lots of smaller deals that are happening which don't make front page headlines. Even those big deals, in the final analysis, do not necessarily create value for those that are associated with them. So one can argue that, look, beyond the headlines, there is little depth in terms of those big deals. But the truth is, more people must feel they are part of the mainstream, and therefore the DFIs who are supposed to be advancing funding to them must fulfill their role.
What are DFIs?
The development finance institutions, the likes of the ITC, the NEFs, the DBSA, and so on and so forth, as well as the commercial banks must fulfill their role, because most of the smaller players who are complaining and lamenting their lack of participation are saying one thing: we do not have access to capital. We're moving from pillar to post. We're not given money.
So overall, if you look at the last 10 years when the BEE legislation has been in place, you don't think it has succeeded as much as it could have?
Well, the BEE legislation has been in place for 10 years, since 2003. The cause of good practice, which really guided this process, has been in place for at least maybe 7 years. And the BEE Advisory Council, which is deemed to be the oversight structure, has been in place for only 4 years. So in the totality, we could say there's been 4 years of complete presence of BEE.
So there's still a long way to go.
Still a long way to go.
And President Zuma said he's looking forward to when we stop talking about BEE and race is no longer an issue. You think we're still far from that?
Well, the president is absolutely correct in raising that issue, because as a head of state, he cannot govern a country where people every 10 black, white, white. We defeated apartheid long time ago. But what the president is really saying behind the statement is, let's hasten speed. Rather, let's hasten change. Because in 30 years' time, we can't still be talking about divided society. We have to speed up change. And indeed, our future generations must not talk about black and white. They must talk about South Africa.
So there's still a long way to go for transformation in South Africa.
There's still a long way. There's still a long way to go, because the ownership of the economy is less than 10% black, which therefore means, by extension, 90% or so white, including foreign nationals. The management of the economy, if you look at the CEOs, the chairpersons, and the CFOs of large corporations, less than 25% are deemed to be black. So there's a long way to go. Remember, empowerment is not just a transformation imperative. It is an economic imperative. You cannot grow this economy to the extent that the National Development Plan envisages if you're going to rely on a small pool of white people. You cannot grow the fiscal pool of taxpayers if we're going to rely on white corporations. So you've got to build these black enterprises for the good of the country in the long term.
Thank you very much. That's Black Business Council member Sandile Zungu there on the state of black economic empowerment in South Africa today.
News that moves. eNCA.com.